Hello everyone, my name is Umid Askeri Sichani. Today I want to talk about my research with title of From Dynamic Balance to Performance. This MIRI has been amazing for me, has helped me to achieve a lot of collaborations with amazing people from very different disciplines. This is the list of my papers, and I only today can touch on the blue ones. In my research, we studied the dynamics of relationships among people in a team. And these relationships are usually described and represented as networks which are signed, directed, and evolving. So there are a lot of different theories describing how this change of relationship would happen. One of which is very famous is structural balance theory, started with Heider in 1946. I believe a lot of people might talk about it today, but our spin is that we looked at the literature and we found, first of all, this theory has attracted a series of diverse research and has shown strong empirical support in cross-sectional systems. However, it has been rarely tested on longitudinal data, means data for a long period of time, on large networks, and has been rarely tied with performance, which is an interest of us in MIRI. So our paper in Nature Communication and our revision in communication physics try to answer these three questions. The first thing is that we need the empirical context and we need the data, thanks to our amazing collaboration with Professor Utsi and Jackie Ying. We basically had a data set of day traders for 66 day traders for 2 years. While we have all of their instant messages and all of their trading transactions collected. So the first thing we did, we used a dictionary of NASDAQ Stock Exchange and IG trading glossaries to classify all of these messages and instant messages to social and work. And then we use a null model to remove all of the statistically insignificant messages. So we end up with only a social relationship and a social network of all of the traders. Then we want to look at the triads, which are the subgraph of three, and these networks, and compare them to a randomized network and as a null model. And what we found is that the observed networks that we have in this day trading firm are statistically more balanced than a randomized network. This was great because it told us that the network that we have is not just due to the random. The next thing was to look at the underlying relationship among these triads and the underlying dynamics. And then for that, we used a Markov transition matrix to see the probability transition of each triad to another triad in this network. And what we found is that transitions mostly occur from unbalanced triads to balanced triads, but not vice versa. And transition probabilities are relatively stable across different periods. This was great, shown essentially a result that balance theory holds in a longitudinal setting. Another very interesting problem was to look at how performance is impacted by balance. What we found is that traders trade best when their balance is relatively high. The increase from medium to high balance actually increases their profit by a margin of 30%. We also added a lot of other features, but still yet we find social balance positively and statistically predictive of performance, and in this case, profitability. And this was robust to features such as centrality, active trading days, fixed effects, and market uncertainty. We also looked at the other randomized model, and what we found is that the coefficient that we find with our model cannot be explained by random. We use also two larger data sets. One of them is Integrated Crisis Early Warning System for 23 years, and the other two are Bitcoin data set for 5 years. And this time we used sparse balance theory, and yet we found structural balance theory to be the driver of the system, as the probability of unbalance to balance and staying in balance was always high. We basically found the main driver of the evolution of the system is actually just the first rule of balance theory, which is called transitivity. So takeaways are, we have a first evidence that balanced networks emerges in longitudinal risky decision making. We have an empirical evidence that balanced networks positively impact performance. We right now have a human subject experiment using POGS to run lab study for structural balance theory, which is very, very interesting as well. And last but not least, we have a first study to verify generalized structural balance on a worldwide data set. And we also found and we could pinpoint shocks in this worldwide network using time-varying Markov models. And with that, I end where I started with, and thank you very much.